Technology and trades. A school designed to teach the skills of boat building to the next generation.
What's better, drywall or plaster? We'll show you the difference.
And here comes the sun, or better yet, our solar plant.
What happened to all this plumbing here?
I've never seen anything like this before.
There's already rot going on in that trunk.
So what have you found up here?
Well, a bit of a surprise. It's really the classic plumber's lament.
Nice.
See this main roof form? We just pull that forward so it's even where this existing deck is.
Definitely says mid-century modern.
Money's in the details.
That is beautiful. Hi there, I'm Kevin O'Connor, and welcome back to This Old House here in Jamestown, Rhode Island, where we're working on this 1920s bungalow, and we are hoping to make it net zero. As you can see, a lot of the exterior finishes on the main house are done, as well as on the garage/barn that we added. Now that is a perfectly south-facing roof, which until recently was completely covered in shade. But now that most of the trees have been taken down, you can see all of the sun hitting that roof, and that is going to be perfect for the solar array that's going to be going up there pretty soon. We're also making good progress inside as we wrap up our rough electrical and plumbing, and that means it's time to start finishing off our walls. Hey, Tommy, how are you?
Hey, good, Kevin. How you doing?
All right, so plastering day, always signs of progress in the house, which you like?
I love it when the plastic goes in.
Now, so in the Northeast, we do plaster on blue board quite a bit, but that's not really the trend across the country.
No, I think the majority of the country does what is called drywall, and they tape the joints and joint compound.
So let's talk about the difference.
Okay, so here is a sheet right here. This is drywall. If you look at the color, is a little bit different. This drywall is meant to accept joint compound, a pre-mixed product like this right here. It comes in a tub. It's pre-mixed.
Yeah.
And you build it up with multiple layers. You put your primer on. You have to wait for that to dry, usually overnight, and then you put another coat on, and then wait for that to dry, and then you put another coat on and sand all the joints.
But in that case, you're talking about just the joints, and the major part of the field, that's left plain.
Right. If you look here, see this tape? This is a fiberglass tape like this. So you can use the fiberglass tape on joint compound like that, but a lot of guys like to use a paper tape.
Yeah.
That means that you have to put your base coat on first of your joint compound, set this in the wet joint compound, and then cover that, and then cover it again, and sand it. So it's time consuming. You know, it could take a couple of days to do a room, and you also have to fill all the joints.
So we have the compound here, this stays paper, and then ultimately this gets painted right here.
Well, this is meant to accept paint. Board here, this plaster board, the whole thing gets skimmed. It's really not for paint.
Blue board often, and really that name just comes from the sort of blue tint to it?
Yeah, it's a slang that the plasterers use. We hang the blue board, you know. Okay. But it's really a different makeup. The paper is different to accept the product. It's different.
Because the plaster is wet, so this whole field's going to be covered.
Right. Now this is a veneer plaster. They're going to cover all the seams with a veneer plaster. You see they have the tape in here. Yeah. They're going to build that up because this is dimpled down a little bit. And that allows for the thickness of the plaster to be thicker here than here and cover that tape. You also see the screws, how they're dimpled in a little bit.
Yeah, sort of recessed a touch.
It's very important that you do that on any kind of board that you're hanging because you want to have a space for the joint compound or the plaster to build up. And then you bring it out and you sand it flush on wallboard. But plaster, they're going to cover everything.
So the first step is obviously just working the seams. How long does that take to set up?
Depending on weather conditions, usually about an hour. And once it's set up and kind of dry, then they can veneer coat the whole wall and all the joints.
You got one guy working high, one guy working low, and a third guy keeping the hawk full of plaster.
That's right. The guy working high is on stilts, and that saves a lot of time. And it's not a type of a job that a homeowner can do.
I've tried it. It is really an art.
You can't stop. You got to keep going until you've got that whole wall covered.
And you can see how the technique is just to keep that trowel moving. Always keep it on the surface. Always keep it moving.
Keep it moving. Try to keep it flat, but also keep the consistency of the thickness. Now you can see Mike, the guy on the floor here, he's blending it right up into the upper section. You don't want to stop. You don't want to create a joint. All right, so now that Phil has applied the base in each corner, he's taking a corner trowel to make that joint nice and tight.
You can see that trowel's got a little bit of a spring to it, so it always pushes in tight.
Yeah, it's beyond 90 degrees. Next step is to let it set a little bit. It can't get too dry. And then he's going to start adding water to the mix and troweling it again. And as they do that, you're going to see it really start to flatten out. It's going to take about 2 weeks in this weather condition for this to really dry and the plaster set before you can paint it.
Well, it's definitely an art form.
It sure is.
Panels are an important part of our net zero plan, and those panels are going to install on the shed roof right here of our barn building. But a lot goes into sizing these systems and making them right, and Mark Trout is our technical expert that's been given that task. Hello, Mark. How are you?
Hey, Richard. Great. How are
Glad
you
you're
today?
here.
With somebody who's doing as much new construction that we can talk about really achieving a balance between what they consume and how much they need to produce to offset
A lot
that.
of people are probably just trying to save money on their utility bill.
Absolutely. That's what we normally see is just customers going after savings.
Right. So where do you start with on the process here?
Well, typically we would start with somebody's utility bill, figure out what their consumption looks like, what their rate tiers look like with the utility company. However, here with Don, with the new construction, he actually had computed what he thinks his consumption is going to be.
The heating and the air conditioning, the electrical lighting, and everything else.
Absolutely. And how much he's going to need during the winter versus the summer.
Right.
All those to create a profile of consumption.
Okay. So how do you size the system?
Well, then once we've got that figured out, then we start looking at the sun, trying to figure out what kind of sun hours we're going to get throughout the year.
All right. So the sun's up in the sky most days, 8 hours a day, but we don't get all of it, right?
Exactly. And here in New England, we've done the analysis. We think we're going to get about 1,016 sun hours this year here at this location.
1,000 hours hitting onto our solar panels.
Absolutely, producing energy.
And how would that compare with someplace like in the Southwest?
You know, so like in Arizona or California, you might be looking at 1,600 for a very similar sized roof and similar access.
That's a big difference.
Absolutely.
All right, any particular issues in siting it here?
Well, clearly we have to worry about the trees and the shading that they're going to create.
Well, I tell you, if you were here a week ago, there were trees from here to there in complete shade, and what a difference here.
Oh, absolutely. Today is a really bright summer day here in New England, and the sun is real high above our heads.
Yeah.
And as you think about it, in the winter, it's going to be much lower across the horizon. So we've even got to be worried and concerned about what these trees are going to do for our shade.
Right. But those trees will drop their leaves, so it'll still give you solar contribution.
Absolutely.
So now, this building is exactly south right here.
It is, and it's also got a great pitch for us.
So we really like the angle to be like this for the summer and more like this for the winter. So this roof's been cheated a little bit because we want to make sure we have plenty for the heating load.
Absolutely. You know, and we could do the east as well. You can see we've got great solar visibility today up there. But in the late afternoon, we're going to lose that.
That's right.
Same with the west. We're going to lose it in the morning and capture it in the afternoon.
All right, so our panels are going here. How many are there?
We're going to put 18 up there.
All right.
And let me show you a standard one.
Okay.
So this is a standard photovoltaic panel. Basically consists of a whole bunch of solar cells that are silicon stratiated with wires that go through these things. When the sun comes down and beams on this, it's going to excite the electrons, produce about 300 watts of DC power.
So 300 watt, what can that do for us in a typical house like this?
So 300 watts is probably enough to basically light up your living room.
Okay, so one room, but we've got 18 of these up on the roof.
We do. We have 18. So really, we're going to be able to produce about 5.6 kilowatts of power during the day.
All right, so they're going to be up in a string.
The old days with Christmas tree lights where one light went out, you lost the whole string.
Yeah.
No, we've gone past that. Basically, these are going to be connected, whereas if one goes out, the rest of them are still producing for us.
All right, so the sun's going to hit this, excite it, it's going to turn it into DC, direct current.
We're
right?
making it as DC.
It comes into the building. Now we have to invert it to alternating current. So we've seen that kind of stuff before, right? This is what we use in a car to go into a battery, which is going to give us 12 volts DC and turn it into 110 volts. Your inverter is just a bigger version of that, right?
Absolutely. This is a residential inverter. Basically, it's going to take all that power that we produce in DC. We're going to come through this inverter. It's going to power the house. We're going to connect this to your panel, your electric panel in the house. Basically, anything you need is going to come right through this as long as it's producing, as long as the sun's out.
But the key to your system really is that with 18 of these things, we're going to make more electricity than the house can actually use in a given hour. So we're going to actually send power backwards and spin the meter backwards, right?
Absolutely. So that power, that excess power is going to go back on the grid. It's what they call net metering. And basically it is. It's going to turn the meter backwards. Then during the winter months, you're going to be you'll probably be pulling some power the grid, basically taking that meter forwards. The goal at the end of the year is that that meter is back where it started at the beginning of the year.
Now, another variable is actually how people actually use electricity, right? How Don and his family will leave the lights on or not.
Absolutely.
Okay. Well, I cannot wait to come back a year from now and see how we did. When do you get started?
We get started in about a week. Looking forward to it.
Perfect.
Hey, Jeff, the plasters are making good time upstairs.
Yeah, they're doing good.
Yeah. And now I noticed that downstairs you had this plastered about a week ago, and you've got it all primed. The walls really look great.
Yeah, we're ready to go.
All right, so ceiling, huh?
Yeah, so this ceiling, what we've chosen here is a 5/8 tongue and groove poplar ceiling.
Yeah, beadboard.
It's beadboard, but we're actually going to be using the other side exposed, and that's the V-groove side.
V-groove. So this is a 5-inch, 5.5-inch.
Yep.
Back primed, which is light. Nice because it stabilizes the board and less chance of expansion and contraction.
Absolutely.
All right, it's going to look good. Did you order enough boards to do the whole ceiling without any joints?
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Great.
We don't want joints in that ceiling.
No.
All right, so 135 and 5/8 is our length.
Bevel the edge so that you guys can tilt it right in there. See how it fits?
Use the butt end of your hammer.
All right, that fits good. That's a nice fit. It's a good looking ceiling, Jeff.
Yeah, that's great. So let's get the kitchen going now.
All right, let's make some room.
Our idea house here in Narragansett is a lot further along than our main project. Check out this back patio and how beautiful that is. But this is mostly about new ideas and trying out products. So it would not be complete if we didn't think about the power generation and backup, which is why our electrician, Ben Giles, is installing a backup generator for us. Hey, Ben. Hey, Kevin. Good to see you again. Good to see you, too. So backup generators, a lot of homes get them these days.
Yeah, it's a great add-on to a house. You know, you get a little bit of peace of mind when you're out of town that your house is still up and running, or if you're there and you don't want to leave your house during a storm.
Sure, and so I guess the thing that we need to know is sort of how big is it, what's it going to run, and what is the power source, the fuel source for this one?
So it's a natural gas generator, which is great because it'll pretty much run indefinitely as long as there's not a problem with the grid. You don't have to worry about filling up a few days and all of those types of issues.
And what is it going to run inside the house?
So this one is what you would kind of think of as an emergency load generator. It's not going to run the whole house. It's just going to run a large percentage of the house. So you'll get things like your refrigeration, all of your heating, most of your lights, but not bigger appliances like your air conditioning, ovens, things like that.
Okay. So what is its size?
This is a 14 kW.
Got you. I presume it's one of those systems that sort of monitors itself, starts itself up on a regular basis.
Yeah, it'll run once a week for about 15 minutes, do a little diagnostic, make sure there's no problems, and throw a check light if there are any. So I think what we'll do now is we'll get it set to automatic, and we'll go downstairs and give it a try.
All right, let's do it.
All right, so Kevin, this is the automatic transfer switch.
Yeah.
And this is going to control whether or not the house is running under normal power or generator power.
So when I see a transfer switch, I usually just see like one little switch and a sub panel next to it. Is this a combo?
Yeah, so this one puts it all together. You can use to feed circuits.
And these are the circuits that are going to go on. And you've got, you can see right here, you've got master suite, fridge, sump pump, I like that, kitchen lights, master plugs, and so forth. When the power goes out, what happens here?
So this thing is going to wait a little while and make sure that it's an actual blackout and not a brownout. Once it realizes that you're in full blackout, it's going to tell the generator to start. It's going to let the generator warm up just a little bit, and then it's going to automatically transfer power over to the generator system.
And then, say, hours later, when the power comes back on, what happens here?
Same thing in reverse. It's going to wait and make sure that that power came back on fully. It's going to transfer power back over to the grid, and then the generator is going to run a cool down cycle and shut itself off.
All right, so how do we prove all that? How do I simulate a power outage?
So I'm going to have you go and shut off the sub breaker, the feeder breaker for this panel.
Power's out.
So we're just waiting a few seconds here. It should start the generator and come right back on here shortly.
Hey! Wow, perfect. It's actually pretty fast. That was like 15 seconds.
Yeah, it really does. It checks it pretty quick and gets the power going for you as soon as possible.
All right, well, good peace of mind for our day house. Thank you, Ben.
Thank you.
I'll go switch that one more time.
Great.
For centuries, this Newport Jamestown area has been known for naval activity and yachting. After all, it was Newport that originally petitioned the Continental Congress in 1775 to start the U.S. Navy. Newport has always been a home for naval training. Now, cadets attend the Naval Academy Prep School. This is the Pass in Review ceremony. These young people will be our naval officers of the future. But it's not just about the Navy. This is the Irish School of Technology and Trades, a school designed to teach the skills of boat building to the next generation. Terry Nathan is the president here. How are you, Terry?
Nice to meet you. Thanks for coming.
My pleasure. Tell us your mission.
So, turns out boats are a great metaphor for building almost anything. They're complex shape, they live in a hostile environment, and they're always breaking down.
Sort of like life itself.
Yeah, exactly. What better thing to learn how to make something?
Great.
Yeah.
So take me through.
Yeah, so this is a 2 academic year program. In the first year, students work with small teams on these boats called Beetle Cats, which are very famous in New England.
Sure.
And look at the shape of these things. There are no squared off edges anywhere. There are curves and angles, and everything is meeting at a complex point.
There's not one straight piece. It all has to be bent.
That's right. And if you look over here, you can see our steam box.
Right.
Every frame and all the planks on this boat were put through that box. These are open, and you can get this shape.
And you can't bend it without steam.
No, without the steam, it breaks.
So are these new boats?
These are restorations, a lot of new material. Basically, the spirit of the boat has been kept in the process of the restoration. In the second year of the program, the projects get more complex, more sophisticated, the teams get larger. This is a Hairsoft Columbia hull, one of several versions of it. And the joinery work on this, feel this shear straight.
It's beautiful. Everything's beautiful.
This is a beautiful piece of mahogany.
Yeah.
And basically, the students are expanding their experiences to take on more understanding of different ways of building.
Who are your students? Who comes here?
So we have a real diverse student body of all ages, from high school graduates to career changers. And what they all have in common is they have a passion to make and build at a really high level, no matter what the tool or the material
To do something with their hands.
Yeah.
And where do they end up? Where does a graduate end up?
They end up all over the manufacturing economy, from traditional and modern boat yards to high technology companies and manufacturers. Let me show you our new building and some of the modern making that we do.
All right.
This is the machine shop of the future.
I love
Everything is digitally driven. We have a 3D printer here, a group of 3D printers.
Look at that.
This is an industrial strength 3D printer building out a whole of a Volvo.
A little miniature boat.
Yeah,
Cool.
exactly. 327,000 layers that goes into
And
that.
these are all digital?
These are all digitally based machines. We have CNC routers, we have lathes.
drill presses. Yeah. Cool.
And here is a great example of how the best of the traditional program and this program come together in a project. This is a rudder, traditional rudder, wood rudder, and it has a rudder post right here made out of bronze, which was originally done on a lathe.
The old days, they would put it in the lathe and grind it away.
It would take a long time to
try
do
it and try it and try it.
And now, presently, you can do it using digital technology, and Tom will tell you how
Here's
that's
the computer whiz.
We took these old prints
Yeah.
and we modeled a solid model of the part,
Right.
and then we brought it into a CAD CAM software package, which makes the code that the machines can understand.
Perfect.
And before running at the machine, we verify it on the screen,
Yeah.
and it will actually draw the stock up, and it will give us the ability to zoom into the area that we want, and we can actually play on the screen.
So it shows you how to actually mill it.
That's the cut, the rough cut, the finish, the groove for the thread, and it cuts
Right.
the thread. At that point, I can process it and send it to the machine. I know it won't have a crash.
So awesome.
Yeah, so we're taking this craft you saw earlier in the wood program. This is really important to the 21st century manufacturing in America. And the proof is in that our graduates are coming out of here and they're in demand.
And they're getting
They're
jobs.
getting jobs.
Totally cool. And Newport has one other nautical claim to fame. From 1930 to 1983, it was hometown to the world's longest winning streak in sports history, the America's Cup, a yacht race that pitted the fastest American boat against a world challenger. And this boat right here won the Cup in 1962. This is Weatherly, and we're going for sail today. Hi, boys.
Hey,
I'm
Richard.
glad you're here.
Yes,
Nice
sir.
to see you landlubber. And George Hill is our owner and skipper. Hey, George.
Richard, nice to see
Glad
you.
to be here. Cast off.
Okay.
Boys, come on in. Here we go. Look good. Stay low. That's why they call it a boom. So, George, thank you for this great sail on this historic boat. It was terrific.
It was a pleasure, Richard. Ready about, guys?
I'm Kevin O'Connor.
I'm Richard Thuy.
I'm George Hill.
And I'm Jeff Sweeney.
For this old house here in Newport. Boys, I think we better man these sails. Next time on This Old House.
We have a quick fix for a yard that's been trampled by construction.
And the answer is clover.
This grass, no fertilizer, no pesticides. We have only watered this field twice during the summer of a drought in high heat.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
We start installing our solution for heating, cooling, and hot water for our building.
And we install screens on the porch the old-fashioned way.
For more of This Old House, go to pbs.org/thisoldhouse, where you can watch full episodes anytime. And follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. This Old House magazine, the companion to our television series, provides trusted information from our team of experts. You can use your credit card to subscribe for 1 year. That's 6 issues for $10. Just call 1-800-221-5900.